deep dive. Today, we're digging into a really potent set of materials you've sent over, all focusing on Romans chapter 1, verses 18 to 32. This isn't just ancient history, is it? Your sources really show it as a framework for, well, understanding ourselves and the consequences of our choices.
Absolutely. It's quite striking.
So our mission, our goal for this deep dive, is to tackle that really quite sobering question that comes out of your material. What actually happens when we choose to ignore God? We'll be looking at this idea of a downward spiral and, what it means to be given up to certain ways of living. It's quite the exploration into human free will, really.
It is. And the sources you've gathered, they paint a really vivid picture of those implications, leaning heavily, of course, on Paul's letter. What's quite illuminating, I think, in the commentary you share is how clearly the text argues that what can be known about God, his power, his divine nature, it's actually obvious, right there in creation.
Okay, so it's not like hidden knowledge.
Not according to this passage, no. Your theological notes point out it's less about academic learning and more like this undeniable, almost innate awareness, which is why right from the get-go, the text suggests humanity is, well, without excuse.
Right, without excuse. Let's unpack that a bit. Your sources stress that even though people knew God, they made a conscious choice not to honor him, not to give thanks, and instead their thinking became futile and their hearts darkened. What does that actually look like, practically speaking, based on your materials?
Well, connecting it to the broader context in your sources, it points to a really fundamental exchange, a kind of turning point. People actively swapped the glory of the immortal God for things he created. Images, people, birds, animals. They basically traded the truth about God for a lie, choosing to worship and serve created things instead of the creator.
Wow, so it's presented as a deliberate choice, not just a mistake.
Exactly. Your sources suggest it's less a passive drift and more a willful redirection of worship. And that really sets the stage for everything that follows.
And this brings us to that phrase that jumps out, repeated 3 times in the passage your sources focus on. God gave them up. Verses 24, 26, 28. That repetition feels significant. What do your sources say about what that actually means for God to give them up? Is it like abandonment or something different?
That's a really crucial question, and the biblical scholarship notes you included offer some great clarity there. The original Greek word, paradeuken, used for gave them up, it isn't really about God actively pushing people into sin as like a punishment.
Okay.
It's more like a judicial surrender. A consequence where God, respecting the choices made, allows people to follow the desires they've already chosen. It's described as a kind of letting go, letting us experience the inherent brokenness that comes from rejecting the Creator's design.
So it links back to that idea of consequences we talked about.
Precisely. It implies that, as one source puts it, sin is living as if God doesn't matter, and God, in a way, lets people fully experience the reality of that self-chosen path.
And the results of this giving up, well, your sources list quite a few. It's pretty stark. Given up to debased minds, dishonorable passions, leading to impurity, dishonoring bodies, unnatural relations, and then this whole catalog. Unrighteousness, evil, greed, envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice, gossip, slander, arrogance, insolence, even being inventors of evil. It's quite the list. Do the sources connect these things? Is there an underlying pattern?
Yes, exactly. Your material frames it not just as a random list of bad actions, but as that downward spiral you mentioned. Each step away from acknowledging God seems to make the next step into darkness, easier. Almost inevitable.
A slippery slope in a way.
Kind of. And one analysis you included highlights how even the approval of these things by others, that sort of societal validation, actually accelerates the decay. It becomes a feedback loop. The sources are careful to clarify. God's wrath here isn't presented as arbitrary anger, but more like the natural, built-in consequence of persistently rejecting the Creator's blueprint for how life works best.
Right, the universe sort of letting us experience the results of going our own way.
That's a good way to put it. Experiencing the natural outcome of that self-governed path.
So this really brings us to the core takeaway, doesn't it? This so what from your material. The sources draw this really clear line. Ignoring God leads down this destructive path, but acknowledging and honoring him leads towards, life and freedom, which makes the core question incredibly personal for all of us. Am I really living like God matters most?
Yeah.
Or am I acting like I'm the one in charge?
And thinking about today.
Yeah, thinking about today. What are the modern idols? Maybe things that aren't statues, but, the relentless drive for success or constant comfort, or maybe just needing everyone's approval. What's competing for that ultimate place in our hearts?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
What a deep dive. This is profound stuff and challenging too. A powerful reminder from your sources that our basic choices about who or what we see is ultimate reality as creator. They have huge consequences. They shape our thinking, our relationships, our whole lives.
Absolutely. And the invitation that comes through from this deep dive, looking at your sources, it feels pretty clear. It's an invitation to genuinely acknowledge God as creator, to take his word seriously, and to actively choose his way over just doing our own thing.
So perhaps we can leave you, the listener, with this thought to consider. If, as your material powerfully argues, the invisible attributes of God are clearly perceived in the world all around us, what might you start to notice differently today if you just intentionally looked for them?